In this video, we complement our application with the code that's needed to have it not only create star log entries, but also update and delete them. Let's start with the class that handles the database access. In this class, we have already defined all the code that's necessary to set up the database with the help of our DB helper class. And we've also defined a method to fetch all star log entries from the database. So if we want to edit existing star log entries, we will have to be able to pull specific items of the database. For that, I've defined a method called fetch1. This takes the ID of the table row as a parameter of type long, and this will do almost exactly the same thing as the fetchAll method, except for the fact that this time we're also providing a selection parameter. So we compose the string out of the column key, an equal sign, and the row ID value. So return only those values where indeed the ID equals the row ID. Here you can also see how within a cursor we can explicitly move to the first item. That's the method for retrieving a single entry. We scroll further down. Here's the method update log entry, which is pretty similar to the create log entry method, as it also accepts the data for the star log entry as parameters, puts them into a content values instance, this time together with the ID because that already exists, and instead of inserting the data, it will update the data. And naturally, we'll also provide a where clause parameter. The signature of this method tells me that this method as well returns an int, which is the ID of the table row. So I check whether this ID is larger than 0, then the operation has been successful, and then return that Boolean value. So this method will return true when the update has been successful and false if not. For deleting an entry, the function is even simpler. I will just call the delete method of my database, specify the table name and the where clause as parameters, and also check if the int that's coming back is greater than 0. And that's all there is to it for handling the database. So now let's have a look at our star log class. This class already displays all of my log entries. And now I've provided a method which is an overridden method of the list activity, and that's the method onListItemClick. This will give the list that has been clicked, the view that's been clicked upon, its position, and its ID. So I compose a new intent that targets the logEdit class. I stuff the ID of this element into the intent as an extra and start that activity for result. As you know, as soon as the subactivity is closed, the method onActivityResult is run, and all it does is updating the list so you can see the new or modified entries. So right now we have two different scenarios when logEdit is opened. One, when it's opened via the Options menu. In this case, there's no information accompanying it. Or two, after clicking on a list item, and then this intent is accompanied by some information. So let's have a look at the logEdit class. I will click on it. So the first few lines of the onCreate method are the same. But then, for the scenario when there's information coming with the intent, I get the intent, get the extras bundle, and stuff it into a variable of type bundle. So that's quite easy. If it was created without accompanying information, the bundle will be null. If this class was called due to a list click, the bundle will be not null, And in that case, I can retrieve the ID from the extras bundle. I'll store this in a newly created member of type long. Finally, if I indeed want to edit a star log entry, I'll need a function to pre-fill the fields, and that's the method updateViews. We'll scroll down a bit. Here it is. It simply checks whether my log ID member has been defined, and if so, it uses the function from the StarLogDB manager, which retrieves the corresponding dataset. Then I'll have that cursor managed by the activity, retrieve the star date value, the timestamp. The cursor has retrieval methods for all kinds of data. We also have to tell the cursor in which column you'll find that information. And I do this with a method getColumnIndexOfRow for better visibility when something goes wrong, because in that case there will be an exception. The same for the log text. This time I retrieve a string. And when I'm done creating or editing my star log entry, I again click on the Confirm button. The event listener method will in turn call the save log entry method. And these parts are the same as before. But this time I'll check if there is a log ID defined. That would mean the log entry has been edited. So when it's not defined, I create the log entry as before. And if it is defined, I use the update log entry method instead. Right after that, the result is set to result OK, and our application returns to starlog. Let's see this in action. Here's our application. Click on starlog. Click on this entry. And in fact, that's the entry to be edited. I'll edit the text, click Confirm, and I'll see the edited entry. Create a new one. Now I have two entries. So now you've learned how to retrieve data from the database, how to write to the database, and I've turned this into a fully functional Starlog manager.